Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laura Jones, and in this session we're going to be speaking with elite ultra runner Tom Evans. Tom made an impressive ultra debut when he placed third at the 2017 Marathon des Sables. In 2018 he won the UTMB CCC race, and in 2019 made his 100-mile race debut at Western States, bagging himself an impressive third place. Also in 2019, Tom took third place at the Lake Sonoma 50, as well as a bronze medal representing Great Britain in the World Ultra Trail Running Championships. Finishing off the year in style, Tom was part of the Great British team crowned European cross-country champions. He runs for Adidas-Terrex, Red Bull and Garmin. He's 28 and from the UK. Tom, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. So before we jump into the detail, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your background and how your running journey started.
So I was always sporty growing up. Played lots of sports when I was at school, but not necessarily running. So running for me was just a way of keeping fit, just so I could perform in other team sports. When I left school, I then joined the army, and I went to Sandhurst, the Royal Military Academy, and commissioned as an officer into the Welsh Guards in 2012. And from then, contact sports and other team sports just after a couple of years sort of just stopped being relevant. I didn't want to get injured, and I sort of got to I thought that I was very grown up and thought that I couldn't turn up to work with a black eye on a Monday morning, which maybe not, who knows. And I had some friends in 2016 who did Marathon des Sables, who are in the army, and they did really well. They finished the top 300. And when they got back, went to the pub with them sort of to have a bit of a celebration and sort of classic sort of alpha male chat, I guess. And I then say, yeah, you guys did well, but you guys aren't that good. And he finished top 300. I could definitely do better than that. Having never done a park run, I used to race a little bit on the track, but was never particularly good. And as I said, very casually, offhand, yeah, I bet I could do better. And thought nothing of it. Woke up probably slightly hungover the next morning, and got made to sign up to the 2017 edition of Marathon des Sables, which was to be my first ever race of distance. And yes, I did. I'm really into my sports science. Did a lot of reading, and more so now, but at the time, so I was doing a lot of reading about strength and conditioning, about sort of heat acclimation and acclimatization, and basically just wanted to get, when I do something, I want to do it properly. So I thought, right, I'm actually going to invest a little bit of time and effort into this and find out how I'm going to give my best chance to be as successful as I possibly can. And at this point, success probably looked like finishing the race, because it's not a guarantee. And training went well. Wasn't coached during it. Didn't have a training plan or anything. If I had an hour, I'd run for an hour. If I had 3 hours, I'd run for 3 hours. And I bought the watch that I was going to use at the airport before flying out, which is stupid. And yeah, and then got out to Morocco and just ended up loving it. And the race went really well and ended up finishing third, which was above and beyond sort of my wildest dreams. And from there, got some amazing opportunities and was asked if I wanted to run in a couple of other races in 2017, one being the Eiger Ultra Trail 100K, and finished fourth. Well, I spoke to a couple of people before then, and they said, don't do Eiger as your first mountain race. I'd never run in the mountains, never used poles, never run for, the longest stage of Marathon des Sables was my longest ever run. And that was 80K, and they said, people said, don't do Eiger, it's brutal for your first one. And I did it, and it was this at the same time as a Swiss mountain running championships. It was in that race, and ended up finishing fourth in that race, and there's no way that should have happened. And then, so to sort of cement 2017, I then obviously at this point didn't have any UTMB points, hadn't entered UTMB or any of the races at UTMB because I didn't have the points. So I'm sending a couple of emails, didn't get anywhere. So I actually flew out to Chamonix because at this point I was ranked 4th in the Ultra Trail World Tour rankings after only ever 2 races, finishing 3rd in one, 4th in the other. And flew out to Chamonix and sort of managed to speak to someone in the UTMB offices, and they'll have no idea that it was me. And managed to get a place for CCC. It was had the number, but my name was handwritten on the number. It was about 2 weeks before the race. And yeah, in 2017, ended up finishing 4th at CCC. And it was kind of at that point that I was like, right, let's start taking this a little bit more seriously. Like, I had a coach by this point that was still in the army, and it was, yeah, that was where I sort of saw my career going. And it was only so 2017 was a great year, finished Ultra Trail World Tour in 3rd place, and then 2018 was sort of my first big year. That was called that sort of chapter 1. 2017 was a prologue, by mistake, getting into this sport. And 2018, yeah, a couple of sort of big wins in Costa Rica, and then in the Trail Running World Championships, 3rd place, and a couple of course records, and then to go on and win CCC, which for a British athlete who lives in the south of England, or who lived in the south of England at the time, like, just in theory shouldn't really happen, because people say, oh, you have to be a mountain runner to race the mountains. I'm like, well, okay, I found this on the web, so do you have to be a mountain? Oh, sorry. Siri's decided to talk to me saying, do you have to be a mountain? No thanks, Siri. Siri's he's just checking up, making sure that I'm training properly. That's not happened before. Yeah, and it's that kind of my running history, and I think so when I look back at it, it's like, yes, I haven't done much specific run training, but for me, the military, for my running career, taught me and gave me 2 huge advantages. Firstly, the physical strength, has trained me to be really robust. We do obviously a lot of training in the military, but it's much slower, it's much more gradual, and it's predominantly walking for long periods of time. But yeah, that makes you really robust, and that's why now I can happily put 24, 25 hours of running in my legs a week in, week out, and make great adaptations, but not burn myself out. And when I do get injured, I'm sort of sensible enough to back off, and I understand how to cross train. And I think for me, that's one really important thing. And at the time, I didn't really think about, yes. And I still now stand on the start line of races. Stood at the start line of Western States last year, having only done 5 races before. And I was sort of saying, people are like, oh, you're sort of up there, you're one of the elite runners, all this. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but guaranteed I have got the least trail running, ultra running, mountain running experience out of anyone who is racing here, be that elite runners or someone who's got in from the lottery. And it's still now to most races that I enter. I probably have the least amount of experience because I've started quite late in the sport, but actually I've got 8 years of sort of solid military training under my belt that's just laid the foundations that now I can, if I'm training for a mountain race, I can just go to the mountains for a month, and that's sort of the cherry on top with the training. That's the tip of the iceberg of the training, and actually all of the foundation stuff's already done. Yeah.
Do you think the discipline side of it as well from the military?
Yeah, massively. And I think that's sort of the second benefit from the military is mentally. You get told to do something and you do it. I've not had a period where I was at university or had a normal job where I'd have some normal weekends and get into bad habits and things like for me, yes, it probably is being incredibly institutionalized, but going straight from school to the military, but as you should be. And having recently left the military, I've just moved house to be close to Loughborough University. So I've got an institution that I can revolve my training around, because for me that works. And I think the mental side of things, as a professional athlete, certainly that isn't in a sport that isn't recognized fully by a national governing body. And yes, I've got a coach, but she's not here. She's not forcing me to go running. I could just sack it all off. It's raining outside and it's windy. I don't want to go outside. But it's that time when no one's thinking. It's easy to perform in races. It's easy to get yourself up for races because there are going to be people watching. There's going to be crowds. Going to be cheering. People asking for selfies, for you to sign photos they took with you the year before. And firstly, I can't believe that. So why would anyone want that? I'm just so incredibly normal. And yeah, and then but for me, it's that discipline of, right, it's dark, it's cold, it's pretty miserable, and it's when no one's looking, no one's forcing you to get out of bed and walk down the stairs sideways because you've wrecked your quads from a very long run yesterday. And yeah, and I think that being in the military, there's no option. You don't want to do something, you can't pull a sickie. It just doesn't work. So yeah, so I think that's sort of the two main things that I took from my military career that has made me into, or that laid the foundations for me to go into an ultra endurance sport. And it just so happened to be running, whether I'd done a biking race or got into ski mountaineering or anything like that, who knows? But I started running and I loved it, and I can't see myself not running.
It must have been amazing at Marathon des Sables in 2017. Everyone must have been like, who is this guy? Where has he come from?
Yeah, it was. And a lot of people thought that there's another British runner called Tom Owens, who's a Salomon-sponsored athlete, incredible. And he was someone that I still really look up to. And people thought that Tom Evans was Tom Owens, right, because Tom Owens might have done well in this race. And yeah, people sort of couldn't believe that there was sort of some slightly chubby, much bigger than everyone else guy on the start line.
And young too.
Yeah, and young, and who was going out hard. And I was led the first stage till the last 2 kilometers and couldn't quite believe that I was there. So I thought that I'd gone the wrong way or something. And then the Moroccan athletes run past and sort of staring at me, being like, what is this guy doing? He's just going to die. He's just going to break. And so day 2 comes along and it's sort of, I'm still there. Day 3, I'm still there. Long stage, I'm still there. And I think it's sort of at that point, I think like, right, there's a really throwing a span in the works, because they always want Moroccans to be 1, 2 and 3. And to have some British dude in at number 3 is, it hadn't happened before. So I sort of slightly spoiled their party.
And I love that entering it came off the back of a sort of testosterone fueled in the pub. I'm sure I could do better than that.
Foolish, very foolish.
Yeah, it's brilliant though. It's brilliant. So now, obviously, you've made your 100-mile debut. What's kind of driving you to push forward into these bigger distances? Is it just because you're curious to see what you can do, or?
Yeah. So the last couple of years. So 2018, 2019, I'd probably see as sort of chapter 1. It's been me trying different races, be it sky running to 20K mountain races, to cross country, to 100-mile races. And I think I'm incredibly fortunate where I can do a really specific training block and I'll make great adaptations. To be able to go from Western States, 100-mile race, to then be injured and to not run for 6 weeks, to then have a 7-week build-up and qualify for Great Britain in a 10K cross-country race, and then for the team to win the gold medal, is, whether it's rare or I'm not sure, but I've sort of got a very diverse portfolio of being able to run, be it running at 8-minute miles for Western States or 4:05-minute miles on the track. And it's, the last 2 years, I guess, it's kind of been figuring out what interests me the most, what excites me the most, and sort of where I sort of kind of see my sweet spot in the sport at the moment. Because a race in the UK, South Downs Way, 50 miler, I get compared to Lake Sonoma, are completely different races. It's not as if, when people say, oh, you do ultra marathons, it's like, yes, I do. But it's like, if you're training for a marathon, if you're training for London Marathon or Berlin Marathon, the training is the same. It's a flat road. It's going to take, if it took you 3 hours in London, it's not suddenly going to take you 5 hours in Berlin if all goes to plan. And that's the thing with trail running. Western States, 100-mile race took 15 hours. Brilliant. And I'm incredibly fortunate that I was able to do it in under 15 hours. But then you compare that to a race like UTMB, that it's the same, pretty much the same distance, but it's going to be 6, 7, 8 hours longer with so much more climbing, same amount of descending. You're like, well, these are completely two different things. And for me to be able to see what's out there, sort of coming in not with a running background or not living in the mountains background, it was, the last 2 years were all about sort of finding my feet and wanted to do everything from short mountain races to 100-milers. I see sort of the 100-miler is the pinnacle, especially in the US. It is the pinnacle of a runnable 100-miler. And for me, a race like Western States, it's the original 100-miler. There's a lot of history in it. And whether I've taken that because of my links to the British military, I like the history. I love storytelling. And for me, that just sort of made it slightly more exciting. Like, yes, doing UTMB would have been incredible, but for me, there isn't that much of a story there. And I wanted to be able to really buy into the whole process. Like, yes, running around the Mont Blanc Massif is very cool and it's very special, but I sort of kind of already done half of it, and I've trained, I've run the whole course before. And yeah, I wanted it to be special and to be able to go sort of, it's almost like playing an away game in the US. Like, Europe is very much European runners, sort of UTMB it's never been won by an American man so far, maybe this year, but and so for me, it was like, oh, Europeans are expected to win it there. And I was like, right, well, let's go do something different, and let's go to Western States. And didn't put all my eggs in one basket. And sort of, Western States is such an incredible race that no matter who you are, there's no guarantee you're going to get an entry. So yes, I was incredibly fortunate to be given a place by the Ultra Trail World Tour, but I had already decided before this that actually I want to race Western States, so I'm going to race at Lake Sonoma, so I can get a golden ticket, so I deserve to be there. And had I not got the place from the Ultra World Tour, I would have got a golden ticket. So sort of now I sort of kind of feel like beginning of 2020, I found my feet. I know what suits me. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And I now know how to train for certain events, be it a 8-hour 100K or a 16.5-hour 145K. And yeah, this year it will kind of see me racing more of the 100K and a little bit further, or a little bit less, a little bit further distance, but all sort of with sort of 3 big race goals, that everything sort of links together quite nicely. And my training is predominantly based in the UK, because I'm very homely, and I will go on training camps, but I can do the majority of the work that I need to do here. Me and my coach Alison, make it work.
So have you sort of found that around the 100K distance, that's kind of your favourite? Is that what you think's best for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think 100K is sorry if you can hear the dogs bark.
Right.
100K for me is it's a distance that it's very manageable. You can race not loads in a year, but you can race quite a bit, and you can also go hard. You can go I love challenging myself and yes, pacing isn't going to be important, but I like going hard and I like seeing how long you can hold that for. And 100K is such a great distance that actually I feel like I could go very hard for 80K, and it's just that final 20 that you're like, all right, well,
hang on,
a little bit less hard and carry that on, or do I go as hard as I can and see what happens? So yeah, it's a bit of a gamble, but yeah, 100K for me is sort of I think it's the heartland of the races that interest me at the moment that I want to do. And I think it's easy to step up. It's more difficult to step down in distance. So I'd like to do the 100K up to maybe in and around 100 miles over the next couple of years. Because yeah, it's when you go long, it's very difficult to get your speed back, and I've definitely got some goals for running on the road, and yeah, and I think actually you can balance 100K training with road marathon. If you look at other British runners like Steve Way, where Steve Way got the British record, 100K was in the same year that he ran his quickest marathon.
Yeah,
so I think it's so workable, and now look at him.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you curious to go and run a road marathon and see?
Yeah, very. A lot of my training is a lot of my training is pace based, and so do a lot at marathon effort, which then turns into marathon pace. And yeah, I'm really interested to see. Like, I think I know what I'll run off data and off training, but you can't be the best at it. You can't be the best at both. For me, the trail has got to take priority, and definitely does. In my heart, it does take priority. Like, I like training. I like marathon training because I like data. I like being really anatomical. I like being really precise with it. But actually, that's how I approach trail running as well. For me, gone are the days where the trail runner just, today I'm going to run. I might run 15 miles, I might run 20 miles, I might do it at this pace, I might do it at that pace. For me, it's right, I'm leaving the door, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, I know how quick I'm going to run it. And yes, there's still room in there to be flexible, but for me, it's like, I just couldn't understand why a top professional marathoner races twice a year and a top ultra runner races 8 times a year. For me, I just can't understand. And the professionalism involved with it, from nutritionists to physiotherapists to sub-maximal and maximal testing in the lab to specific training camps to acclimation, all of that was being done far more by marathoners than by ultramarathoners. And I just couldn't understand why. So what I've tried to do is sort of combine the two, my coach Alison sort of combined the two, because marathon running is the closest thing. It's the next, ultra running is the next step up from marathon running. And yeah, I think it's sort of shown that it works, and sort of just looking forward to carrying on and seeing what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting to, it's because it comes a lot down to personalities and the way people approach their training. Like you say, some people will just say, well, I just say I'm going to be on my feet for 6 hours today. I don't know where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. Just totally different personalities and different approaches. So maybe this would be a good opportunity. You could talk us through a little bit about your preparation for your debut 100 mile of the Western States. Can you, give us a picture of what your training looked like? What kind of sessions you'd incorporate, when you were preparing for that?
Yeah, so I approached Western States in a little bit of a different way to how most would. I went to Ethiopia. I wanted to get an altitude camp. I respond really well to altitude. I wanted to get an altitude camp that was also hot. And at that time, it was either the sort of 2 real choices were either going to Flagstaff, either going to Flagstaff in the US or somewhere else. And I knew that a lot of the trail runners from Flagstaff were going to be racing Western States. and actually didn't really want to intrude on their preparations for the race, because like I've trained with Jim before quite a bit, and I've trained with Jared before, and I've raced Jared before, and it would have become, I think, knowing those personalities and knowing my personality, there would have potentially been a risk of pushing too hard in training and getting competitive pre-race. So I actually thought, right, move myself from there. There's no need. So I thought, right, where else is hot? Where else is high? So went to Ethiopia and sort of trained with the marathon squad out there, and did their training plus a little bit of extra, sort of do longer warm-ups, longer cool-downs, and incorporated other sessions in. Did 7 weeks out there, and it was amazing. So typical sessions out there. Anything, I say typical sessions, they were so different. Anything from doing sort of kilometer reps, so 8 by a K on dirt road, flat, with 90 seconds rest in between, is sort of a pretty standard session for the flat. For the hills, we like doing long hills, and sort of find I respond really well to long hill reps. So it might be a 6 by 6 minute hill reps with a sort of 3-4 minute recovery in between. So you need a very long hill to do this, and had a really good one in Ethiopia leading up to Mountain Toto. It goes up to 3,300, 3,350. Garmin said something completely different to Google Maps, said something completely different to the Ethiopian council maps. So no one really knows how high it is.
A big hill.
Yeah, it's high. To then doing like a marathon effort tempo session. And that was anything from sort of 20K to 40K at marathon effort. And you're running with these guys who are 206, 207 marathoners, and you're sticking a 40K workout with them. And yes, it's in altitude, so it's not as hard because you're running slower. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. I learned so much as an athlete. Yes, the running was amazing. Pretty scary at points. The running tourism isn't huge in Ethiopia. So I had stones thrown at me. I got hit by a car. Had a knife pulled out on me when I was doing this long hill session. So yeah, pretty brutal, very stressful, sort of almost a baptism of fire, sensory overload when you're out there. But it's come to produce some of the best endurance runners in the world of all time. So thought it'd be a good place to go. And yeah, I learned so much.
Maybe it's because they've got to run quick to get away from the people that are throwing stones in.
Yeah, well, I think they threw stones because I was different.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience nonetheless. And would I go back? Yes. But I'm not sure when. Yeah.
So, what kind of volume were you running in the preparation for Western States?
It was high, but not crazy high. Being at such a high altitude I'd never been on a long camp at that high in altitude, living at sort of just over 2,800 meters, so just under 9,000 feet, and training at a high intensity. Some days you felt great and you could train hard and you could push through. Other days you just wake up and feel horrendous. So yeah, typically it would sort of get in and around 200K, so 135 miles a week. So nothing crazy. But that was with at least 2 sessions a week. One shorter, faster session, be that flat K reps or hill reps, and then a tempo on the weekend. With our long runs, we'll do either in the build-up weeks, we'll do one long run in week 1, and then a back-to-back long runs week 2, and then week 3 single, week 4 back-to-back. And it's just something that we've started doing just to get a little bit more volume in and to reduce the training, the overalls of training, or the same training stress, but actually day by day you're recovering. If you do a 4-hour run on a Wednesday morning and a 4-hour run on Thursday afternoon, you've had a rest day in the middle. You've had 24 hours off. Like, it's brilliant. Yeah. And I'm incredibly fortunate that I've got this time to be able to not have to go to work and to be able to, right, what's the most important thing today? Right, today I've got double run day. how do I feel this morning? Cool, I've got this, so I can push it back later, or I can move this around and I can do that. And that's great. And not having that structure is brilliant, but then also it's got its certain problems. This morning I could have just stayed in bed and not done anything.
Although I do suppose, looking at it from the other side, is that when you need to be resting, you can actually rest, which...
And I think that's the most important thing. I think if I did work a full-time job, I think I could still fit the training in, but it's the recovery which is as important, if not more so, than the actual training itself. Certainly for this year, sort of my training mentality is not necessarily train harder, but train smarter.
Yeah.
So much stuff goes into training. Training isn't just running or going to the gym or cross-training on the bike. It comes into nutrition, it comes into sleep, it comes into rest, it comes into your mentality, your recovery strategies. And I think being smart there just allows you to train harder just through that, and train better and get much better results just by being smart.
Yeah. And what about strength training? What do you sort of incorporate strength training wise?
I use strength training a lot. Two proper sessions a week, focusing on strength, with high-ish weights, low reps, not crazy high volume because the running takes priority, but a lot of stability work, sort of certainly mostly on sort of knees, hips and quads, sort of stability work for running downhill. There's a lot of all my sessions, if they're involving hill work, they're all uphill efforts, because you run downhill, you wreck your quads. And if running is the priority, and for me, consistency is the key, then I don't want to be particularly sore the day after a hard session because I've got to train again. So yeah, I end up doing a lot of stability work, sort of quad stability and knee stability for downhill running in the gym. Yes, it's not perfect, but it doesn't 100% transfer replication, but it's as good as you're going to get without actually running downhill, which if it allows me to train consistently and train properly, then yeah, for me that's brilliant. And some single leg work, but not solely single leg. I used to think that when you're running, you're only ever on one foot at a time. Single leg work is key, but actually getting that strength and that stability and getting your body moving how it should. And actually, if strength training with heavy weight you're not going to get very muscly, but actually one of the benefits of training with a heavy weight is that you teach your body how to recruit muscle fibers. So doing that with two legs, first it takes half the time, brilliant. Everyone's looking for time saving. And yeah, if you're teaching your body how to recruit muscle fibers, if you're racing UTMB or a mountain race and there's a ledge that you've got to step up on, it's like doing a single leg box step up. That's what it is. Yeah. And if you've trained your muscles to be really efficient and it knows which muscles to fire when that's happening, it's going to do it easily, and you're not going to sort of have to put your hands on your knees and sort of really lean over and really struggle to get up and waste energy. It's teaching you to be more efficient, which yes, really helps. And obviously shorter races, you see sort of sprinters and track athletes using strength and conditioning a lot. But actually for ultra endurance athletes who are training for 18, 20, 30 hour races, it's so important. And so people will say, oh, do you go to the gym? Yes, I do. Oh, you must do so many reps. I'm like, well, no, like if I'm going for let's say you go for an hour run and you've got a cadence of 160 steps a minute. So that's 80 steps on each foot every minute. How are you going to replicate that in the gym? Like, I'm not very good at maths, but that's thousands and thousands of calf raises, squats. Well, no. I'm training in the gym to teach my body how to be efficient.
Yeah. Okay, so just thinking again about Western States, can you talk us a little bit about race day, about how it went, the experience?
Yeah, 100 miles is a very, very long way. And yeah, the whole experience was amazing. So I stood on the start line, very confident in the training that I had done. But again, it was a bit of a step into the unknown. I'd never raced that far before. Yes, I'd raced in the heat before, but the heat of the canyons is something completely different. I was very much concentrating on myself rather than what other people were going to do. I had ideas of what I thought some athletes were going to do, whether they're going to go out fast or they would pick up during the race, and so didn't think about that. So just ran on myself, and the first 4-5 hours went really quickly and felt great. And my crew flew a crew out from the UK that was, they were incredible, and yeah, it was hard. It was about sort of 4 or 5 hours, but felt really controlled. It was hard, but felt easy. And like, you're running for 5 hours. That's, for anyone, it's not easy. It's all relative. And yeah, so the middle stage, but basically broke the race into 4 different parts. Basically I broke the race into 4 marathons, pretty much. 4 times 25 miles. Great, easy, so manageable. Rather than saying, oh, you've got to run 100 miles, like, no, I've just got to run 25 miles 4 times. And for me, that was really important. And so every time I'd get 25 miles, I'd sort of change the GPX on my watch, just so, yeah, it was a countdown. It was very visual. I knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, how far I'd gone, and I'd already run the course before, 2/3 of it. And so the first 2/3 went really well, and then picked up my pacer, who's not a pacer like in a marathon. They're not sort of setting splits to you, setting times to you. For me, it's sort of more of a trail companion. And my pacer was a guy called Charlie Harper, a fellow Brit, who last year, 2018, he won the British 100k champs on the road. He's a very, very, very talented athlete. And yeah, I was incredibly fortunate that he wants to come and help out run Western States with me. And yeah, so that sort of probably from hours 10 to 13 did drag a bit. This is the hottest part of the day, getting pretty miserable, feeling pretty tired. This is the first I've ever run by now. And yeah, like I wasn't really thinking about the time and at the end. And running in 3rd place is so difficult because, yes, it doesn't, for anyone else, it doesn't really matter whether you finish 3rd or 4th, but to finish on the podium of such a major race like that is huge. If you finished 4th, like, that's still Matt Daniels finishing 4th, like, incredible, like, amazing run, fellow debutant for 100 milers. And yeah, so running in 3rd, yes, I was looking forwards at 2nd, but knew that Jared and Jim were way up the road, and wasn't 100% sure how far 4th place was behind me. So you're running slightly scared for that, and that's pretty stressful. And yeah, maybe with about an hour to go, to realize that my watch was saying that I was going to arrive after 15 hours in 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, we can skim some of that down. We can get, it just doesn't mean anything. And I run 30 seconds slower, who cares? But it's just that boundary. It's that sub 4 minute mile. It's that sub 3 hour marathon. If you run 2:59:59 or 3 hours and 1 second, like, you're no fitter. But it's just that barrier that people sort of want to try and get under. And yeah, so we really sort of pushed the last hour, and it was only until we got to the track that we thought, actually, this is doable with 250 meters to go. And yeah, it's like I said at the beginning, it's a long way. 100 miles is a very long way. And people describe 100 miles, and especially Western States, as a life in a day. And it is. Like, you get so emotional about different things. It is such a journey. And for me, it was the pinnacle of last year. So I put everything into that race and did things very differently. And first, I was relieved that it paid off. And yeah, so happy to get through my first 100-mile race, and had a really good experience, because that doesn't happen for everyone. And then yeah, it's so different. People who race 100-mile races and it takes them 40 hours compared to somebody who does a 100-mile race that takes just under 15 hours. It's like it's a different race. So its training is completely different, and you don't have to train as much. You haven't got to eat as much, because I've only got to fuel myself for 15 hours.
I think it's Scott Ulrich that says something about, the people, he goes back to the finish line, doesn't he, and watches the people that come in, because he says, they're the real heroes, the ones that have been out there for, 48, 60 hours.
Well, there's no way that I'm tough enough to race for 35, 48 hours and on. No way, not a chance.
So let's just talk about mistakes and challenges. You can't be running out for 100 miles and not face some. What have been your biggest mistakes or challenges that you've made during your journey so far, and how did they sort of change you?
So I think mistakes, just first mistakes of comparing myself to others. So if you look at things like Strava are brilliant because people get to share their training, and I'm now back on Strava and it's great, but I still look at what other people are doing and thinking, oh, if he's doing that, I should be doing this. And it just, each person's an individual. How one person trains is different to how someone else trains, and how they respond to training stimulus is different to someone else. And so yeah, a big mistake is sort of comparing myself to other people. And I think it's so important to remember that what one person does doesn't necessarily work for another person, be that in running or in normal life. Like it's no guarantee if you do this training, you're going to run that time or be able to win this race. It just doesn't work. And yeah, I think that's a mistake. Another mistake is, certainly at the beginning, was just not really listening to my body, not really paying attention, just being completely transfixed on my training program. If it said that on Thursday that I had a 90-minute run in the morning and a 45-minute run in the evening, no matter how I felt, that was going to happen. Even if I was getting Achilles tendonitis or patella tracking or had a tight lower back, if it was in my program, it was going to happen. It was only until recently that I stopped doing that in Ethiopia because I just physically couldn't do it. I was getting so drained. My iron levels were super low. And it was just like, right, if you like, I'm in this for longevity. I don't think I'm going to be at my best at least for another 2, 3, if not more years. You've got to get there first. And if you can't get there, if your body doesn't allow you to get there because you're training like a fool, then the effort you're putting in now is completely pointless. Yeah, the goals I want to achieve are very much now, but I have much bigger goals in the long term. And I'm really looking out for that. So yeah, another mistake is just not listening to my body and sort of training through niggles and trying to train through niggles that then turn into injuries, or just not listening to my body at all. And I think, yeah, and that sort of makes you learn things. And I think sort of the more I run, the better I learn, and the better that I understand my body and its requirements. And that was a really difficult thing about being in Ethiopia, was because it was completely new. I didn't know. You'd wake up one morning and feel great, and you'd go smash a workout. Then you wake up the next day and feel horrendous, and you can't run 5 miles without stopping. Or your stomach turns and you've got food poisoning. And so yeah, I think just listening to your body. I think with challenges, so the main reason why I left the army was because I wanted to be really consistent with my training, and I found it incredibly challenging and incredibly rewarding being in the armed forces, but also incredibly challenging that I couldn't plan out a training block because I didn't necessarily know what I was going to be doing in 2 months' time, or 2 weeks' time, or in some cases 2 days' time. And just being able to, I like structure, I like institution. It's really good for me to be able to plan things. And yes, now I could roll my ankle later today and training is different for the next couple of weeks, but actually I'm now mapped out for this year and most of next year of just big hand stuff like UK training camp in Fuerteventura, racing in New Zealand, racing in Chamonix. And it's having that mapped out for me is, first, it's hugely motivational that and aspirational. Like, I've got things to look forward to and to train for, but then I think it's another challenge that is like family and friends. Ultra running can be quite a lonely sport, and having these things in your calendar and in your diary, I think is really, it's really important that for your friends and family know when you're around, know when you're back, and make a huge effort with it. Because it's a challenging thing. Like, yes, you've got to be, as a trail runner and as an ultra runner, you've got to be used to running on your own. But actually, the strength of the group is incredible, and to be able to have a normal life outside of training is key. Like, I'm very much an all or nothing person, and it's it's so difficult. I want to throw everything into ultra running, but actually one day I'm not going to be able to do it, and you can't sort of stop sport and be like, right, well, I'm now here. Please, everyone, come and be my friends again.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your goals now. What, long term? Because I mean, obviously, I mentioned before, you are the promise that you're showing at 28 years of age is really exciting. What long term? What are your goals for your running?
It's difficult. Yes, there are some key races that I would love to perform at, and be able to perform my best, and be that. There are some huge name races, be it Western States, Hard Rock, Leadville, UTMB, Trans-Gran Canaria. There are these huge races that are huge long races that really appeal to me. There's then shorter races like Marathon de Mont Blanc and Transvolcania, and races in the UK like South Downs Way. And for me, South Downs Way, it's a small race, but it's probably my favourite race. I'm going back this year. It's going to be my first, except for CCC, it's the first race that I've gone back to. And I think that says something about the race itself, and the community that's around. Like, I want to go there. Yes, I want to go, and my goal might be to, I've already got the course record, and I think I can take 20 minutes off that course record if I haven't got a headwind. And I think it's, so they've got like performance goals like that are great, but like you don't know what's going to happen. So I think, like, in like the big hand stuff, like my performance goal is to be the best athlete that I possibly can be, and I want to sort of squeeze every ounce of performance out of my body by doing the right thing and sort of being the best athlete that I possibly can be. And these things take time, and I think the way that I do that is I'm just really sensible, and really sensible, and just don't be an idiot. Don't overdo it. Don't overtrain. Like, there's no reason to get ill. There's no reason to get viruses. Like, if you see, I get my bloods done. If my bloods are off, then something needs to change. Like, don't keep trying to sort of put the square peg through the triangle hole. Like, this is trail running and ultra running. Like, yes, running is good for you, and sort of doing exercise and doing fitness is good for you, but actually running at such high volumes over such harsh terrain for such a long time, both hours in a week and weeks in a year and years in a lifetime, there is going to be some degradation on your body. And this is very much, I'm in the body that I've only got one of these. You can't, if you bugger and you ruin it now, then you're gonna have to live with that for the rest of your life.
It's kind of like the main goal just needs to be longevity, doesn't it?
I want to say really healthy. Like, I think I'd much rather train at 90% capacity for 10 years. And I think if I'm the most consistent athlete that I possibly can be, then I think goals are very achievable, and consistency, yes, it's run after, whether it's you're doing a double day and you tick off both runs, great, and it's you're running however much you've programmed in for the week, and then for that month, for that training block, for that year, but it's actually stacking them on top of each other. And actually, I think like it's Paris 2024 Olympics marathon. Why not? I think if I'm the most consistent athlete that I can be now, like why can't I run at 2:09? And I think that's that is a goal. It's something that it's a huge goal, and to be able to, and I would only drop down from trail running 6 months out and do one marathon before. But like, why not? If consistency, for me, consistency is the key. Like, I think I think if I can be the most consistent athlete that I possibly can be, then that's great. But if you turn up to a race like Western States and you've done the best training you possibly can, but what if someone's done better? What if someone's had a little 1% better training and just has the perfect day on race day, and you run the best race of your life? You finish, it's the best race in Western States history. It's a sprint finish, and something unexpected happens and they win by 1 second. You come second in the race, and you're like, oh, well, I wanted to win it. Oh, you've just raced the best race of your life.
Yeah.
So I think like labeling goals is great, and my goals are sort of slightly more internal and sort of not so, oh, I want to win this race, I want to do that. Like, to be completely honest, like, I want to be the best that I can be.
Yeah.
And if that is good enough to be the best in the world, like if that's good enough to beat Killian at Marathon de Mont Blanc, amazing. If it's good enough to finish 10th at Marathon de Mont Blanc, great.
You know you've done your best. Yeah.
If Jim and Jared beat me again at Western States, or someone else does, fair play to you guys. Like, you've trained really well, obviously. You've had a race. If I perform my best, and if my best isn't good enough to be the best, like, all I can ask for is my best. I want my best to be the best, but if it's not, I can't do anything about it. Like,
no, quite. Yeah, I always say that, you know, these SMART goals, these specific, measurable, achievable, you know, they're all well and good, but actually, at the end of the day, I just want to make my kids proud, you know.
And at the end of the day, it is just running.
Yeah.
Like, it's the people ask, oh, what do you do for a living? Like, oh, I'm a professional athlete, I'm a runner. And I was like, when you break it down, like, all I'm trying to do is put one foot in front of the other as quickly as I can for as long as I can. That's it. Like, that is what running is. Like, people do this as a hobby. It's not like, I'm not going to go and do accountancy as a hobby, or start doing farm management or selling houses as a hobby. Like, I leave that for someone else. And
secretly stack shelves in Sainsbury's for your hobby.
But that's it. Like, running is a hobby, and I'm incredibly fortunate, and realize how fortunate I am to be able to do something that I genuinely love and I genuinely enjoy as a job. And I've never really seen it as a job, because I love what I do. And there are some days where I don't want to run, and I've missed training days. I have eaten things that I shouldn't have eaten. Like, who cares? Like, it's running. Like, it's life. Like, you can't just completely.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to ask you about the mental side of ultra running. You know, what sort of strategies do you find help you get through when it gets really hard?
So at the beginning, I still do use visualization a lot. And at the beginning, it was me having the perfect race. It was me crossing the line in first place, having beaten everyone and broken the course record, and just had the perfect day. I then grew up a little bit and realized that it's very rare that that's going to happen. You're going to have the perfect day. And actually, visualization is going to be better spent preparing myself for the unexpected. Be that, like, what happens if, and it's asking that question, like, what happens when, or what happens if? Like, what do I do if I start feeling sick in a race? Or what do I do if I'm in a bad spell? And then once I've thought about it, and I've thought of a bit of a strategy of not necessarily to prevent it, because these things are going to happen, but what am I going to do when it does happen? Is once you've thought about it, like it doesn't scare you and it doesn't faze you. Like I've accepted, like I'm racing in New Zealand in less than a month, 100K race. At some point during that race, I'm not going to feel great. I've accepted it. Like it's going to be hard. I've accepted it. And when that happens, I know what I'm going to do. Like, I have got an emergency gel that I carry for every race. So far, touch wood, I've never had to use it. And people are like, oh, you're carrying extra weight. I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm carrying an extra 50 grams. Like, oh, but you need to be at the race. But I'm like, well, no, I don't, because if I wanted to be that much lighter, I just wouldn't have eaten breakfast for one day, 6 months out. There you go.
Yeah.
I've saved the weight. And some people say this. And yeah, once you've thought of the problem and sort of you've accepted it, and I think that's really important. And then I think just like for me, it's just about being happy on the trails. And people do say it, and you see it. It's publicized quite a lot when Eliud Kipchoge was doing the sub-2 attempt in Vienna. Like he is smiling. Like, there are very few photos when I'm on the trails where like I'm grimacing. Like I am, however horrendous I feel, however far into race I am, like I will be smiling, and like I'm so friendly to like aid stations, and I just get so much energy off them and from me being happy. Like I think it's huge, and like the power of being happy and of smiling and is key. So like if you are feeling horrendous, just pretend that you don't.
Yeah.
Convince yourself. And it's like people say, like, what do you do if you're not confident? Like, just act. Convince yourself that you're confident. Like, your brain is so clever, but it's so easy to trick it. And yeah, you put a smile out, I'm happy.
Yeah.
If you're not, like your body is, as soon as you trick your brain into thinking you're happy, things are going to be great. Things are going to be
fun. So we're nearly at the end now, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think are 3 characteristics that are needed to be successful in ultra running?
I think, firstly, I would approach this question in a different way and say that what is success? And I think one characteristic of being successful in ultra running is understanding what success looks like. Success for me may look different to success for Jim Walmsley, which may look different from someone who's racing their first ultra marathon, 50 miler this year, South Downs way. Success will look very different. And I think, the first characteristic is sort of being, self-aware. And I think that covers so many different things, be that sort of being injured or your training or your nutrition or anything that goes with that, but then also just being aware of who you are. And if it's your first race and you're lined up against some top ultra runners, just probably best not to go out at the pace that they're going to go out. More than welcome to try it, but just be aware of who you are, where you are, and what training you have done, because the you is the most important thing. I think other characteristics, to be a top runner, I think you've got to be robust. I think you've got to be both physically and mentally strong, that you're able to you haven't got to run crazy mileage and crazy volume in training, but you've got to be able to put months together. You've got to be able to piece training together. I think consistency is just so important. And even if your run volume is 6 hours a week or 16 hours a week or 26 hours a week, like it doesn't matter which one it is. I think just the consistency and being robust, the individual being robust. Just because I ran 200 30-ish kilometers last week doesn't mean that someone else has got to. Doesn't mean that if Joe Bloggs follows my training day by day that I did last week, this week, congratulations, you have got patella tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis, and you're going to spend the next 3 weeks injured at least.
You're totally exhausted.
You find that actually that works perfectly, and you're ready for it, and you're going to beat me at my next race. Congratulations. Take that risk. Let's see what happens. And then I think the third one is sort of kind of a combination of like humor and humility, like being able to joke about things when things go wrong, and then when things go very right, it's just remembering that congratulations, like you've done really well, like you've won your goal race, everything you put everything into, and yes, it's all relative, but it was still just running. Like is that yes, that's certainly a legacy that I want to leave when I retire from the sport in 15-20 years time. But actually, if I have the best race or the worst race, I come home and my dogs don't care. They're gonna love me regardless, and they're not gonna know the difference. And yeah, like you said with your kids, like they understand, but they just want you to be a good mum. And I think to be able to have that and not, yes, take running seriously, that's great. And I take running incredibly seriously, but I also know when to stop and to have a beer and to chill out and take a day off, take 2 days off, take a week off, go on holiday, turn off social media. And I think having that balance and being an endurance athlete, people really struggle with balance. And to be able to have that humility to be like, right, yeah, well done me, achieved what I wanted to do, ran a sub 3 hour marathon, brilliant, great. Now actually there are still incredibly important things going on in my life, and it's now sort of time to do something else. And like, great, set another goal and do as much as you can, but remember that it is just running, and there are way more important things in life than just running. And I think a final point sort of slightly related to that is to have, I think, to be a very successful endurance athlete, you've got to have something outside of the sport, whether that's family or dogs, or like I've just started, of all things, I've just started baking bread. Bizarre. But absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, because it's just something else. Like it's something that keeps me interested in doing something. Like it gives me a little bit more, it gives me purpose outside of running. I just find it like bizarre. I just find it so rewarding. And like how you can turn little ingredients into something amazing. And I guess it's kind of like training, kind of like life. Like you just put the right ingredients into a training block and be patient with it, work hard with it, and you then put it in the oven. Don't open the oven, because if you look too early, it's all collapse. You just got to trust the process. And when the pinger goes off or the alarm goes off to say that it's ready, hopefully you've done what it is enough. But if it hasn't gone right, then it's not the end of the world. Take a breath, either start again or go to Waitrose and buy a loaf.
I love that. That's a brilliant analogy.
It's like life, and it's definitely like training.
So now, thinking about your younger self, that guy in the pub in 2016 talking to his friends who had just run Marathon des Sables, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just say yes, do it. Don't worry too much about the future. Just enjoy the moment. Fully embrace the moment, and roll the dice, see what happens.
And what about if anyone who's watching who's thinking about entering their first ultra marathon and you know, considering whether or not to do it, what would be your advice to them?
My one bit of advice would be sign up to it, pay for it, and then you kind of feel like you have to do the training. But give yourself that time frame. Don't do something. Don't sign up to. If you've only ever run 10K before, don't sign up to do 100K next week. Like, give yourself time, but actually sign up to it. Give yourself a goal. Goal setting is huge, and if you can do it to raise money for charity, or you want to do it to get involved in a local community or a run club, like that's great. But yeah, sign up to a race, because worst case scenario, if you haven't signed up to it, if you don't sign up, you're not going to do it. If you do sign up to it, you have got more of a chance. You are one step closer to doing it, and yeah, it will change your life. Not just through running and through fitness, but I think it just gives you a completely different approach on the things in life that are valuable, and you learn so much about yourself in those dark times, which will happen. Ultramarathons are not easy, because if they were, then
everyone would be doing it.
Everyone would do it, and it wouldn't be impressive to do it. And yeah, I think I'd just say sign up.
Yeah. And what about if anyone who's watching who's already an established ultra runner but is wanting to take it to the next level, to, you know, to really improve? What advice would you give them?
I think my first bit of advice would be, don't train. Training harder isn't necessarily training smarter. And I would say, make sure that what you're doing is the right thing, and don't be afraid to ask for advice. It can be pretty scary out there now with sort of social media and people sort of being very, very minor celebrities, runners, I suppose, people who look up to you, and can be potentially a bit intimidating, but just ask help, because everyone's been in that same boat. And yeah, it's ask for help. And then I think thirdly, just be patient. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to suddenly decide when you're brushing your teeth on a Saturday evening that, oh, tomorrow morning I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best ultra runner when I wake up. Like, it doesn't happen. You couldn't just go to bed on a Friday night and wake up on Saturday morning and run a 12-minute 30 park run because you want to. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, being really patient with it, because yeah, these things take time. Like, I'm now 2.5 years into my ultra running career, and I'd say this is just starting chapter 2. And I want this to be a long book, because things take time, and I appreciate that things do take time. And yeah, like, I'd love it to happen now. Like, I'd love to be the best that I'm ever going to be now and have that for the next 10 years, but that's not going to happen. I think we've got so used to things, Amazon,
instant gratification.
Yeah, arriving. Yeah, like, I ordered stuff. Yesterday I ordered some Voltarol gel, and the one that I was going to order because it was cheaper arrived a day later, so I didn't order it because I wanted it now. And it's such a small thing. You look back and you're like, does it really matter? No. So yeah, just being really patient. Like, we live in such a fast-paced world that actually just take a step back, take a big breath, and enjoy the process. Because training, let's say you average as an elite ultra, let's say an elite 100K runner is probably averaging somewhere between 18 and 22 hours of running a week for a 100K race, and the race might take them 8 hours. So actually, training takes so much longer than racing. You've got to be prepared to do the training, and yeah, then enjoy the racing. But yeah, be patient, because these things take time.
Yeah, good advice. Well, I think that just about brings us to the end. Thank you very much for joining us today, Tom, and for all your wisdom that you've shared.
No problems at all. No, great to get involved.
And we'll put all the links below for everyone who can follow you, and see what you're going to be getting up to in 2020 and beyond. We wish you the best of luck, and thank you everybody for joining us.